What's up, besties? Welcome back to another episode of IE and Besties. Woo-hoo. Unfortunately, if you're reading the title, today's episode is a lot different and it is going to look a lot different moving forward. I don't even know how to say this. Like, literally, it's been something to dread, but Stephanie has unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, Stephanie has decided to take a step back from the podcast. I want to be sensitive to her personal life and what she's dealing with. She shared a few things lastly when she was here on the pod, and she shared other things as well on her social media. She's been dealing with really life-altering events. And if it's one thing that I've learned and I admire a lot from Stephanie is that when you decide to say no or you decide to have a boundary and like you're just going to respect that. And, I'm only going to share what she has shared publicly. But, even like with the recent loss of her life, I think when moments like that happens, it puts a lot of things into perspective. It puts a lot of value of the things that you do into perspective, and things like having your family closer. And so she's going to be moving. I don't want to share too many details. I'll leave that to her. I don't know, besties. I don't know what this means. Like, it's, the podcast is still going to continue. It's just going to look a lot different. I've enjoyed working with Stephanie, and really we asked her to come and give a few words, but at this particular time, she doesn't feel like she's ready. And we obviously want to give grace to that. But I did ask the besties like 2 weeks ago, can you guys tell me what are some things that Stephanie has taught you? And so I thought that I would be good to dedicate some time. I don't know, guys. I don't know. Besties, sorry. This is trust me, it's not easy to say if you've been here since the beginning. Stephanie is very much an integral part of who I and Besties is. I'm wearing the OG Besties merch because at the end of the day, you always have to value those and appreciate those people who put some respect on it. Besties would not be Besties had she not ever had her own little food truck, had she not ever asked her mom for birria. And Stephanie's fucking amazing. Like, I literally wish her all the best. Obviously, when you do things in partnership, you're always thinking of the other. And when you love and appreciate someone, you want them to do what's going to be the best for them and their mental health and their life. And if at this particular time it means being closer to her family, it's a decision that we had to respect. But I did ask the besties to share a few words from the baddie that is Stephanie. And one that I really, really, really loved, because I think it speaks to really who she is somebody put here, I should have screenshot it, but there was just so many. Like, guys, everybody loves Stephanie. I love her too. Okay, let's see. But there was one here that I'm like, damn, this is so real. This, I think, captures who she is very much so. But right here, Stephanie has taught me to recognize my own boundaries and to always focus on your personal time because it's not worth taking it over. It's not worth burning out. It's not worth burning out for anything. So I feel like that speaks to her, right? She knew that at this particular point, she needed to be with her family and the people who love her, that she's outspoken. Stephanie has taught me to take up more space. Stephanie has taught me that you should always be proud to be too much in a society that tries to dim the light of women who are outspoken and dress boldly. Love you, bestie. Stephanie always says what we're thinking, and she loves that you're fearless. Stephanie has taught me to embrace the loud girl in me, to take space no matter who I am or who it bothers. You're aspirational. A lot of girlies here said you helped them change their diet. And I have to say, Steph, I definitely don't eat hot Cheetos every day because of you. And so there's so much more to say, but we're really going to put this here, leave the door open whenever she's ready to come and say a few words and say her goodbye. It's always going to be here. We love Steph. And really, 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 at the end of the day, besties would not be besties, would not be IE and besties had it not been for Stephanie. And so I can't tell you guys right now what the future of the pod will look like. but we're always going to have her best wishes. Stephanie will always be a bestie, always be the OG, always be the true bestie. So make sure if you guys still want to keep up and follow her at Steph's Got Milk on all her social medias and tap in with her. And drop a comment, send her a message, let her know how much you love and value her and what she meant to you. And guys, we'll hopefully have her back so she can come and say goodbye to you guys for all the life-changing experiences that you guys have really opened up for her and I. Now, I know it's like kind of, hard to segue, but we also do have a guest today. I brought my friend, KandyCocktails. I really wanted to bring her on. One, because last time she was on here on Besties, she really had such a powerful story, spoke to really having to deal firsthand with, immigration. And we thought, considering what's going on in the state of the world, we need to talk a little bit about it, right? And Kandy, thank you so much for coming. I loved your story when you came and you told us about how, you yourself were caught up in, maybe you want to briefly, I don't want to tell your story, briefly go into that, and then maybe we can go into like the immigration stuff, but the short story you shared.
Yeah, so last time I was on the podcast, I shared with you girls how my mom got deported and how me and my sister kind of went through that together, and how we grew up in the Inland Empire in Riverside our entire lives. And now there is, such a huge impact on what's going on, and so many people are amplifying immigration rights. And I feel like now is a time to speak on those topics. My mom was deported when I was a teenager, and I had a really hard time because I really didn't know what was happening. Like many other kids that their parents get deported, we didn't really know how to proceed or what to do next, because we didn't have family that can help us with those situations, because everybody else was an immigrant too. And we took a lot of time and tried to find all the resources to help us to get my mom back in the States, which was very difficult because we didn't really have much to help us. It was a different time back then as well. And there was a different presidency and different laws applied. So I feel like we were one of the lucky ones, that got my mom back into the States. And even though we were traumatized and we had to hurdle through all of these situations that preceded my mom being gone and me and my sister having to live alone and figure out how to get to school and figure out how to feed ourselves. And it's a lot. And I feel like my heart is with everybody that is going through what I went through a couple years ago, several years ago, actually. I was a teenager. I'm almost 30, so time flies.
You were 13. Yeah, and to just give context, besties, for those, if you guys haven't been on watching the news, but last week there's been some protests in LA. ICE has been doing their immigration sweeps, and they went a week ago to a clothing warehouse in downtown LA, and they tried to do like the job sweeps where they go to a place of employment and then just start picking up people at a location. And so this was a clothing place. ICE was trying to have the place surrounded. The business owner was not really letting them come in or out. The community heard about it, came and drove ICE out. And since then, that's then led to thousands of protests across the state. I mean, we had Donald Trump deploy the National Guard to combat the protesters. Meanwhile, LAPD, which is one of the most notorious police departments, put out a statement saying that the protesters were actually peaceful and that they had everything within their own control. And I'm just like, why is it that President Trump can deploy 4,000 National Guards and 700 Marines to combat peaceful protesters? But what happened to the January 6th protesters? What happened when they were storming the Capitol? What happened when they were trying to the Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi, or the Vice President, Mike Pence? How come we didn't need 4,000 National Guards for that? How come? Why is it? Because they're white? Is it because they were protesting in favor of the president? Is it because you want to deploy and actually militarize the police department, or you want to have military in a domestic setting? Like, that's why we have police departments, to control, you know, domestic state issues, whereas like the military is supposed to be for foreigners. Why are we deploying the military against peaceful protesters in LA? I don't understand that. Like, what's the difference between like this and that? Like with January 6th and this, there's no difference. It's just the communities.
I think it's like a political agenda that Donald Trump has for the media. I think it's very much like a planned thing for the media to pick up that these peaceful protests are actually not peaceful. And because they're not peaceful, we have to deploy, you know, larger forces in order to control the peace in Los Angeles, which is like a false narrative that they're pretty much putting onto us, you know. They're just recording and amplifying certain scenarios that are happening in these protests that don't look good for the overall or the general public that is actually showing up and is trying to share their story or, you know, become allies with one another and also find a space for each other where, you know, we have mutual interests in a certain policy. And because Donald Trump has the access to deploy the National Guard and order people around to
perform violence.
Yeah, perform violence against these protesters. It definitely gives a false narrative, and I think it rallies up the right wing.
Yeah, of course. And I love that you said like it's the false narrative. Governor Newsom just went on the Daily podcast and literally said there were, for the most part, the large majority of protests were peaceful. Obviously, you do have incidents of vandalism or where people are violent. He's like, but that was only like heightened because of the militarization of the military. He's like, LAPD say we don't need the military. You guys could go home. We have this totally under control. They didn't even deploy National Guard when we have Black Lives Matter protests. So I totally agree with you that it's his political agenda, right? Donald Trump said he's going to come. I'm going to do immigration sweeps. I'm going to have the military come into these states and come into these sanctuary cities and do this. And yeah, that's exactly what he's doing. This is authoritarianism. Like it's in the most simple way, this is authoritarianism. Like they want us to to just not be free thinkers and to follow everything Donald Trump has to say. Immigrants are not taking your jobs. Like I don't know where this myth came from. But
and the jobs that they do have, I'm pretty sure you don't want to do them.
Right. They don't. Because why did Donald Trump put a statement out that they're not going to be deporting the farm workers or the meatpacking industry? Why is that? Or the hospitality lanes? Why is that?
Because they need low income employees to take those jobs in order to feed America. And the people that don't have jobs and don't want to get jobs, they don't want to do the heavy lifting and the heavy picking. That's it. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So I think it's just like it's a lot of emotion to take in, to have the media talk so poorly on immigrants when the immigrants are literally such a huge stepping stone to America. And, you know, my brain can't.
No, it's just heartbreaking. I think as a Latina and you yourself who has experienced something like this firsthand, it's heartbreaking because we see our communities and we're like, we're not murderers, we're not rapists, we're not wanting to commit crimes, and we cross with nothing, maybe $100 if you're lucky.
Yeah.
And a dream.
Talking about my experience when I was growing up, all the immigrants that I knew, they were all entrepreneurs. They were doing jobs that people didn't want to do, or they were getting creative. My mom was a housekeeper. She would go and clean houses for people that needed it, for women that, you know, needed some help in their family home. And my mom was taking that role of being a nanny. She was helping these women when they were going through postpartum and cleaning their houses. She was helping the elderly and getting paid in ways that didn't affect like other like the local economy, you know. It was just like helping people in need. My dad, he was a street sweeper. Like he also was a paletero at one point. He saved money to buy a little street sweeper and would go to shopping centers and clean so that the next day when people were going to go to the grocery store, their shopping centers, their parking lots were clean for them. You know, so it's like, who wants to wake up at 11 p.m. to work until 7 a.m., take your kids to school at 8 a.m., have a little bit of time to rest, go sell ice cream on the streets after school, have your kids with you the entire time, and then repeat this over and over for 25 plus years. Like, those are not the jobs that Americans that don't have jobs want, you know? They want office jobs. They want low labor intensive jobs, which immigrants don't have. Like, so why are they complaining? Like, if you didn't have the immigrants doing the hard labor jobs, who would do them? And also, what would your reality look like if they weren't actually here?
And I even think about it like when Donald Trump says, "Oh, these people are criminals. They don't want to work. They don't want to go. They don't want to be proactive members of society." So why is it that these immigration raids are happening in places of employment? Why is it that if immigrants don't pay taxes, why is it that IRS made a deal with immigration services to start deporting people who filed taxes? When there was a law in place that before said that they wouldn't collaborate so that it would encourage undocumented people to file taxes. And now they're using that same information that people used and trusted and believed in the government to now be used against them, to go looking for them. So they're not working, they're not paying taxes, but you're doing sweeps at places of employment and you're finding them by their tax returns. It's either one or the other. Either we are contributing members of society or we're not, but we can't be both. Like, I don't understand. We can't be both and nothing at the same time.
Yeah, definitely playing back onto the false narrative that they're trying to speak on immigrants. And I'm so proud of our community for being able to speak up and for people to use their platforms right now. I've seen like an abundance amount of people with platforms sharing stories about their families or sharing stories about other people or their personal experiences with immigration rights, or how they're personally impacted by seeing their neighbors or their friends, their family friends being impacted by everything that's going on. And maybe they're not being personally prosecuted, but it's the feeling of being in fear every single day, thinking you might get pulled over or thinking you can't go to work because you're scared of being taken from your family. Being able to speak on that for people that don't have voices is such a powerful thing. And I think we have to applaud people that are currently doing that for everybody.
Yeah, 100%. And this is definitely the moment to share like the resources and share a platform. Or a huge thing that I'm glad that Stephanie and I were able to do earlier this year. We hosted an immigration webinar where we had like information on Know Your Rights. We're going to try to see if maybe we can, maybe in a later episode, plug in something, or I don't know, like something related to that. But it's just really important to know very basic things in regards to like, what are your rights? Who do you have to speak to? What does a judicial warrant look like? What does a warrant from ICE look like? I mean, there's so many things, especially right now. They're not following the law. They're not following due process. I mean, people quite literally were picked up in California on one day and were processed and sent to Texas later on that night or the following day. No due process. It doesn't matter if they have a court case pending. Immigration is intentionally targeting people and then looking for collateral. So looking for people who might be accompanying them who are probably have a case pending or maybe have the right to be here, but they don't have the necessary documents, right? Like maybe they just have like a temporary asylum status. But when ICE stops you and says, oh, well, what about your case and this and that? They're taking people who are following the law, who are going to court, who are trying to get a pathways to citizenship or residency. And they're still taking these people and they're deporting them. They don't have due process. That is totally unconstitutional. I mean, at the very least, we should have due process. We should be able to get our day in court. Because if we're a democracy, then how is that? I don't know. It baffles me.
Yeah.
it baffles me. In my lifetime, I'm just seeing us lose our right to trial. It's sick. And then terrorist what the fuck is Guam called? Guantanamo Bay. It's like a prison for terrorists. They're transforming that into an internment camp for immigrants.
That's nuts.
And then they're deporting them to El Salvador.
That's crazy. They're not even from that country. Not all of them.
And you know what someone said on TikTok that resonated with me? Auschwitz was not in Germany. It was in Poland. It's like the immigration concentration camps, not in the United States, right? We're building it in El Salvador.
That's crazy.
It's just like, there's so many times in history where maybe not that place is housing it, but we have allies, and El Salvador is an ally to that. He is a dictator himself. And I actually had good things to say about Bukele, but not after all the bullshit he's been coming through. I don't know. I don't know, besties. It's just an uncertain time. I feel like life feels really uncertain and it's scary. And I really wish that we had like the answers to say like everything will get better. But I actually don't believe everything's gonna get better right now. I feel like maybe things will get worse. But I hope that the mobilization of us as members of our community encourages us to spend time, registering us, our family members who can vote to vote. Maybe we need to donate our time to, causes with immigrants, or, if you have GoFundMes, share them. I don't know. Like, I really wish I had a lot more answers. And I just feel like this is such a place of uncertainty. They're threatening to arrest the governor of California, Governor Newsom. Trump is saying, I'm going to arrest him because he's defending. I don't know.
It's a lot. I think right now is a really good time to surround yourselves with people that you love and people that share the same values with you, people that can comfort you in these times, and to build community with community members that can resonate with what you're going through, or donating your time to resources that can really help other people in our community.
Yeah, I definitely want an organization that's really good to follow is Chirla, CHIRLA, and then ACLU. Honestly, if you go right now on their page, they have resources in Spanish and English, possibly other languages regarding know your rights. Even as you're protesting, it's really important to know what you can do with your protest. Look at your state laws. Do you have to give your ID when you're being stopped? Have numbers that you know off the top of your head you can call. Make sure you're not doing anything that is still illegal, right? You have the right to protest, but you don't have the right to vandalize. But man, it's such a scary time. It's just a scary time. And it really, my heart goes out for my community, our community. Because I just think too, like, when we think of other instances, right, like the Black Lives Matters, or even what's going on like in Palestine and Gaza, this is why we should always be more united than against each other. Because when I first saw the Black Lives Matters protest, and I remember a lot of Latinos were like, well, why are you, like, this has nothing to do with us. And I looked around and I'm like, you don't think Latinos are victims of police brutality and violence?
Yeah.
Like,
they coincide.
Exactly. I'm like, why? And why would we be okay with permitting one race to be abused by the police? Because we're just saying one race. So who's the next? Us? Who's next? Asians? Like, we have to realize that when we come and we are divided and we think that we can't come together for certain beliefs, right, or certain human rights violations. It's just a human right violation. We should all be treated right and justly and humanely. And if we can't have humanity for other groups simply because of their color of their skin, people will not have humanity for us. Even when we speak of the context of immigration and the things that have been going on, people put values on Latinos based on our utility and not on our humanity. And we're much more than just being of use because we can do certain things for the community. We're just people. And if you're a member of society, that doesn't have to be categorized by your utility, right? Although that can help in an instance when you're looking for citizenship. We're much more than what we can do for people. Like, we're humans. We deserve to be service too, you know?
Yeah.
And creating pathways, passing laws that can help facilitate that journey into citizenship, and it would just really help stimulate the economy. It'll help be better communities, help people be safer. The world would be a better place. I really, truly believe that.
Yeah, I believe it too. And I feel like as a child of immigrant and a low income family, I've seen that firsthand because, you know, when I was growing up, there were so many community members that were more well off and would donate their time to help families in need. Or every Thanksgiving, like my mom would take us to the community center and we would pick up, you know, a canasta of food. And it was community members that came together that had more resources, power, and time to give to people that weren't as fortunate as them. And so now that we are in those positions, we have the voice to give to people that don't have the voice. We have the resources. We have the community building. We have the platforms. We need to be able to take on those roles and provide for those that don't have it, whether we relate to them or not, you know? Yeah. I'm sure the people that were giving canastas on Thanksgiving to my mom and to all the other immigrant moms that were showing up to the community center at 6 a.m., I'm pretty sure they couldn't relate to us. They were donating to us. Yeah. But they would give us, you know, these canastas, like, and it was so rewarding to just see my community come together. And I always play those memories back into my head and think how if those people weren't giving at that time when I was in need, what have my mom had done in order to give us experiences, you know? Yeah.
That's real.
Yeah, it's so real. Yeah, we have to give back to our community. Now is the time. And if you're not giving back to the community at these times, I'm judging you.
Yeah, a hella side eye, hella judging. Like,
yeah, for real.
You know, you growing up with your mom being undocumented, like, what was that fear like? Like when you know, because they say like when you see the police or certain things, like, what was that fear like for you? Or did your mom really help like train you to, like, what was that experience like?
So I think growing up, we did have like a lot of fear of ICE, but because my mom would tell us like, oh, un día nos vamos a ir. Okay, mom, pues si un día tú te vas a ir, pues yo me voy a ir contigo, you know? Like, so you're not scared in that sense. You're scared more of your parents being taken away, but when you're a kid, you're like, fuck it, wherever my mom goes, I'm going to. Right. Like, you're going to Mexico, girl, I'm going to Mexico too. Right. You know? So it's like, but when you're growing up and you're trying to build your independence and you're a teenager, this happened to my mom when I was a teenager, then reality starts to kick in. If my mom gets taken, the reality is I'm not going to see her for a couple months. I also have a minor little sister that I have to take care of. I probably have to get a job somewhere or figure out how to get resources for me and her to survive. And those things didn't kick in until it actually happened. Wow. Because when you're growing up with an immigrant parent and you have, I don't know, a single parent, I had a single mom in that case, they try not to instill fear in you. Like they want you to be so strong. By the time things like this happen, you're in complete shock. But before it happens, you don't even think about it. You live life the way you would live life, you know? And then I think it's because your parents are like in a mode of like fight or flight, you know? So you just live every single day, go work, go to school, wake up. It's like the same routine, and you're not consciously living in fear until it actually happens. And you're like, fuck, the day that they warned me about, it's actually here. And then that's when it kind of hits you and you're just like, oh, okay, like now it's time to like get into like a flight or fight mode, you know, what they subconsciously train you for. And it's a difficult thing to navigate because nobody can ever really prepare you for these things because either it happens or it doesn't. Yeah. And for me, it happened and we really didn't know what to do. And then for a lot of people, you know, they stay for so long that they can get their papers eventually and it never happens to them. And unless it does happen to you, for you to get deported or your parents to get deported, you really don't know what it feels like, you know? So it's not something that I could just like say into words and be like, this is how it felt, because I felt so many things. And then I felt scared that my mom was leaving. And then I felt happy that maybe we could make a life in Mexico. And then I felt scared that we weren't going to have anything in Mexico like we didn't have here. And then I felt happy that we could go back to the rancho and live a peaceful life and not live in a rat race. Yeah. And it's just so much uncertainty that you don't know what to think. And usually this happens when you're a kid and you really don't know what to do. You don't know what to think until usually your parent figures it out for you, you know? Yeah. And in my case, I had to wait in a house by myself with my little sister until my mom figured it out, because she was the adult. This was happening to her. We were just the kids.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. It's so like, what can you really do as a kid when your parents are going through that? Nothing.
You just feel hopeless.
Yeah, feel hopeless. Rely on your family to help you. But it really is like on the parent to come back and to figure out what's going to really happen. You know, it was in my mom's hands. Am I going to take my daughters to Mexico, or I'm going to fight and go through the court system and try to stay, you know? And she wanted to stay because our whole life was here. And that was hard. Yeah.
That's hard. But you know what? I think it shows the resilience of being a Latino, right? The resilience of being an immigrant, the resilience of being hardworking and not accepting defeat, you know? Even when she thought it was all lost, look where you're at now, you know, and it's all thanks to her resilience and her strength and her determination to persevere, right? Even in the face of like, because immigration does not give you an attorney. I want you guys to know that you are not legally entitled to an immigration attorney, only for criminal offenses. So it's like nothing makes the journey to citizenship easier. It's supposed to be hard, supposed to be complex. I had aunts and uncles who were in the system for 20 years who just barely now got it. Sometimes there's horrible lawyers who take advantage of members of our community, you know? So it's not just as easy as going and going to immigration and saying, I want to go get papered. It requires a lot of documentation. It requires a lot of resources that sometimes we don't necessarily have, you know, so much more to spend $8,000, $10,000, $30,000 on a lawyer immigration fees, you know? And or make sure we drop down below in the comments or in the text, like some links to some resources and things that we find. It's a little bit of a shorter episode, like I said. Really, we just really wanted to talk about, you know, acknowledge Stephanie for everything that she's done. We'll talk further, hopefully with her here, so she could say, I don't want to speak for her, but make sure if you want to keep up with Stephanie, you follow her on her page at Steph's Got Milk. We love Steph. And like I said, you know, Besties, I'm repping the OG merch. This is before my time. I wasn't even on Besties, okay? OG Bestie type shit. But yeah, and we just wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on. You know, acknowledge the No Kings protest, how millions of people really participated in a demonstration against authoritarianism and against a government who's working against the people. You know, let's not give up. Let's not feel defeated. Even in the face of uncertainty, I mean, hearing your story, right? Like even in the face of uncertainty, she knew that she was going to find a solution. She knew that there was going to be something at the end of the day. And that's what we need to serve as our community is how do we turn this uncertainty into resourcefulness? And maybe it's sharing the resource. Maybe it's spending time. I don't know. If you have other suggestions, drop down below in the comments. But thank you, Kandy, for coming and letting us use your studio. Make sure you guys follow her, KandyCocktails. She, you know, she'll be doing a little something here and there, you know. Anything so we can help and keep up with you.
If you guys want to follow me and my journey as an entrepreneur, I own a small bar in the Inland Empire, and I share a lot of resources, and I constantly am sharing like my family's immigration story as well. You can find me on KandyCocktail on all my platforms.
Yeah, and we'll make sure to link it down below in the text. Again, besties, we're here with you. We love you guys. We're standing in solidarity with you. Drop down below. Let Steph know how much you love and miss her, and make sure you send her a DM. expressing just how much she means to you and us here at Besties. So,
We love you, Stephanie.
I love you.
Love you.
Bye, Bestie.